My name is Alan Rosen. I'm 68 years old. Barbara asked me this morning why I was nervous about recording this. I didn't have a good answer. I still don't. But here we go. I want to tell you something that took me a long time to admit, and I'm going to tell it the right way, which means starting from the part that doesn't make me look good. Look, most people don't retire too early. They retire too late. I've seen it 100 times in the business. Men wait until the health is already starting to slide. They wait until the relationship with their wife has some cracks in it that they've been ignoring with work. They wait until they finally have the time, but they don't have the energy to do anything with it. I almost became one of those men. I want to take you back to a moment about a year ago. I was on a flight, a long one, a private arrangement, heading somewhere warm. I was sitting there in a leather seat, the cabin was quiet, and I realized I had nothing urgent waiting on the other end. For 30 years, my life was a series of urgents. There was always a deal to close, a call to return, or someone who needed me to connect a few dots to make a project move. But that day, nothing. I sat there for 6 hours and I didn't know what to do with myself. I felt like a ghost in a very expensive machine. That had never happened to me, not once. When I landed, I told Barbara. She's been my anchor for 41 years. She just looked at me. She has this way of saying one sentence that takes me a week to understand. And she said, "Welcome to what I've been doing while you were gone." That hit me hard. It made me realize that I had the savings, the properties, and the reputation, but I didn't have a life that functioned without a desk in front of me. This video is the first time I'm really talking about this. I'm not a guru. I don't have a course to sell you. I'm not your financial advisor. I'm just a guy who made a lot of mistakes and a few good decisions and lived long enough to tell the difference. I want to talk about the real version of retirement, the one they don't put in the brochures with the couples laughing on the beach. I want to talk about what it's like when the hustle stops and you're left with just you. I've been broke, real broke. When I was 31, I lost everything. I had a partnership that went south, and I ended up with a negative balance and a lot of pride that had nowhere to go. We were borrowing money just to make the rent. Barbara was working. I was working 3 odd jobs, and nothing was working. I remember sitting in our tiny apartment thinking, this is the bottom. And then I thought, okay, now what? That now what was the most useful thought I ever had. It's what drove me to build the business. I spent the next 35 years relentless. I moved things. I connected people who needed things with people who had things. It was phone calls, handshakes, and a lot of travel. I built it from nothing in my 30s, and it grew into something substantial by my 50s. I'm proud of it, but I'm not proud of all of it. I missed things. I chose the deal over the dinner more than once. Barbara stayed, and that's the only reason I'm standing here today. But here's the thing about building something. If you're not careful, the thing you build ends up owning you. I thought I'd retire and feel free. I actually felt useless for about 8 months. I'd walk into my study, sit at my desk, and wait for the phone to ring. It didn't. I had built the business to run without me, which was the goal, and then I was angry that it actually did. It's like watching someone else drive your car and doing a better job of it than you did. The transition was the hardest thing I've done since being broke at 31. I had to face the check engine light in my own life. For decades, I treated my body like a rental car. I was always on the move, eating fast food in airport lounges, ignoring the stress. I've been on high blood pressure medication and cholesterol pills for years. I thought that was just the standard package for a successful man. Then I got a letter from my doctor after a routine blood test. It said I was pre-diabetic. It hit me like a physical blow. I was out there making moves, connecting things, and I couldn't even manage my own blood sugar. I was stopping at McDonald's twice a week because it was easy, drinking a bottle of wine with dinner just to quiet the noise of the day's deals. I wasn't doing right by myself. I was treating myself badly. I didn't talk to my colleagues about it. I didn't want to be talked out of my decision. I'm an overthinker, and I knew if I asked for opinions, I'd stay in the game until it killed me. So I just stepped back. I wanted to put my health first and my career second. I wanted to enjoy the rest of my days. I didn't want that Sunday dread feeling anymore. You know that weight that starts pressing down on your shoulders around 4 p.m. on a Sunday? The where do I have to be tomorrow feeling. I was done with it. Once I walked away, I realized I had an identity crisis. When you've worked your whole life, that's who you are. I was Alan, the business guy. Without the title, who was I? I had to buy a car, a real car, not a company one. I chose something nicer than average, but not flashy. I stopped needing people to see the car a long time ago. I started looking around the house. We have our place in Florida and another property up north, and I realized I had 30 years of stuff I'd been carrying around like an emotional anchor. I'm talking about boxes of collectibles, action figures, things I'd had since my 20s and 30s. Toys for men, as Barbara calls them. They were just sitting there, moving from house to house. I wasn't going to play with them, so I started selling them. I'm talking about things that cost me $10 in the 90s that were now worth $150. Selling them on eBay became a project. It wasn't about the money, we're fine. It was about the weight. It felt like a weight being lifted off me to get rid of the junk. It gave me a small, creative win every time a box went out the door. It gave me a reason to get up and be productive without needing $1 million deal on the line. Barbara says I'm just finding new ways to hustle, and she's probably right. But this time, it's on my terms. I worked out what I call a minimum viable income. I sat down and looked at the real bills. Council tax, utilities, the grocery bill. I own the house, so I'm lucky there. But I wanted to see if I could cover the basics just by using my own 2 hands and my own eyes. No staff, no infrastructure. It turns out you don't need as much as you think to be happy. I'm not earning anything like I used to, and the big holidays can wait. But I'm not wishing the days away anymore. Have you ever felt like that? Just waiting for the weekend so you can finally be yourself, only to have the weekend fly by in a blur of chores and dread. I was done with that cycle. I wanted something real. The real change didn't happen in my bank account. It happened in the morning. I'm 68, and I start my days with a walk. I live in Florida, so I've got the water and the light. I'm present. I listen to the birds. I look at the wildlife. I used to think people who talked like this were full of it. I thought nature was just something you looked at through a window while you were on a conference call. But I've learned that this walk allows my cortisol, the stress hormone, to lower naturally. I sleep better now. I get a solid 7 hours. In the business, there were nights I'd get 1 hour of sleep and have to wake up and perform at a high level. I don't know how I survived it, honestly. I still train, weights 3 times a week. I'm not trying to be a bodybuilder at 68. I'm just trying to stop my muscles from wasting away. Rows, presses, squats, that's it. I also fast. I eat my last meal by 8 p.m., and I don't eat again until late the next day. I cut out the bread and the sugary garbage during the week. Barbara and I have a deal. Weekends are for whatever we want. Bacon, sweets, a few beers while we watch the grandkids. My grandson Eli is 10, named after my late father. He's a sharp kid. And Maya is 7. She argues with everyone, and I have no idea where she gets that from. Spending time with them without checking my watch every 5 minutes, that's the real wealth. A few weeks ago, I got a text from my doctor. My blood sugar is back in the normal range. I'm not pre-diabetic anymore. I'm reversing the damage I did while I was busy being successful. That text was worth more than any bonus check I ever received. The biggest lesson I've learned in this first year of retirement is that it isn't about the money. It's about what matters once you stop rushing. When you're in your 60s, you realize something uncomfortable. You've lived quite a bit more of your life than you have left. That realization can either scare you into staying at your desk until you drop, or it can set you free. I've learned that you don't need anyone's permission to change your life. I didn't ask my kids, I didn't ask my old partners, and I certainly didn't ask the experts. I just decided that Alan Rosen deserved a version of life that didn't involve a high-stress deal. I've discovered what I call vintage arbitrage. I'll buy something for $15 at a garage sale and sell it for $60 on eBay. It's a dopamine hit that is so much more satisfying than a sterile business transaction. When you earn $1 yourself, with your own eyes and your own hands, you respect it more. It's a lesson my father tried to teach me. He came here with nothing, and he treated every dollar like it took effort to get there. I finally get it. I'm not a guru. I'm not saying my way is the only way. You have to work out your own minimum viable income. You have to think about your own responsibilities. But I can tell you this, I'd much rather have my time than my old income. If you told me I could have the big checks back, but I had to go back to my old life, the insomnia, the fast food, the missed dinners, I'd turn it down in a heartbeat. Here are the 4 things I want to leave you with today. 1. Time is worth much more than money. You can always make more money, but you can't buy a single second back. 2. You only need enough. Once you figure out what your enough is, the pressure disappears. 3. Your health isn't a luxury. It's the foundation. Without it, the retirement accounts are just numbers on a screen you won't live to see. 4. You don't need anyone's permission to walk away. I don't have this all figured out. Some days I wake up and I still feel that old itch to be busy. Then I look at Barbara or I take a walk and I realize that the itch is just a habit I'm breaking. I've made peace with not being the most important guy in the room. That's the part they don't put on the brochure. The real version of retirement is a little messy, a little quiet, and sometimes a little boring. And honestly, it's okay. It's more than okay. It's the best thing I've ever built. If any of this landed for you, if you're sitting at your desk wondering if there's more to life than the next quarter, tell me. Leave a comment. I find those more useful than you'd think. Barbara and I spend time reading them, and I'd love to hear where you are in your own process. We'll probably do a follow-up on this, so subscribe if you want to catch that. All right, I've talked enough for one day. Thanks for being here. Take care of yourselves.